Man listens as his girlfriend curses his mother, but what he does silences everyone. Michael Wilson was prepared for a special celebration evening, but what he witnessed during his mother's birthday dinner would forever change his perspective on the 3-year relationship he had with Jennifer. The sound of the screams still echoed in his mind as he watched his 68-year-old mother walk away in tears. That's when Jennifer completely lost control. Mrs. Evelyn had accidentally spilled a bit of gravy on Fernando's girlfriend's beige dress, and the reaction was explosive. "You careless old woman!" shouted Jennifer, pointing her finger at the gray-haired lady who trembled holding a napkin. "You did this on purpose, didn't you? You can't stand to see your little boy happy." Michael sat frozen in his chair, watching his mother try to clean the dress with delicate gestures while repeatedly apologizing. Mrs. Evelyn's light blue cardigan fluttered along with her hands as she murmured words of forgiveness. "Jennifer, please, it was just an accident," Michael managed to say, but his voice came out weak, almost inaudible. "No accident," Jennifer continued, her voice rising even higher. "This woman has been jealous of me since day one. Look how she looks at me as if I were a demon." Mrs. Evelyn lifted her teary eyes, meeting her son's confused gaze. For a moment, time stopped. Michael saw decades of unconditional love in those tired eyes, the same woman who raised him alone after his father left them when he was just 12. "Mom," he began, but Jennifer interrupted him. "No, Michael, either you defend me right now or I'm leaving this house." Jennifer crossed her arms, her face red with anger. "I'm tired of being treated like an intruder in my own family." The word intruder cut through the air like a blade. Mrs. Evelyn closed her eyes for a moment, as if she had received a physical blow. She slowly rose from her chair, leaning on the cane she had recently started using. I'm going to my room," said Mrs. Evelyn in a broken voice. "Sorry for ruining your evening." Michael watched his mother walk away down the hallway of the simple home in the Marina district, where they had lived their entire lives. The sound of the cane tapping on the wooden floor echoed like a countdown in his mind. When the bedroom door closed, the silence that followed was deafening. "Finally," sighed Jennifer, smoothing the stained dress, "now we can talk like adults." But Michael couldn't take his eyes off the empty hallway. Something inside him had broken when he saw his mother walk away like that. Mrs. Evelyn, who had worked double shifts as a nurse for 20 years to ensure he could study, the same woman who sold her hospital lunches to buy the books he needed for college. "Michael, are you listening to me?" Jennifer clapped her hands in front of his face. "I'm talking to you." "I need some time to think," he murmured, still looking at the hallway. "Think about what?" Jennifer approached, her strong perfume contrasting with the homely smell of food that still lingered in the air. "It's simple. Either your mother learns to respect me, or we're going to have serious problems." Michael finally looked at her. In their 3 years of dating, he had never paid attention to the ultimatum tone Jennifer always used. It was always either this or that. Never a conversation, never a search for understanding. "She just spilled a bit of gravy, Jennifer. It was an accident." "A very convenient accident," Jennifer retorted, tossing her hair back with a sharp movement. "She knows exactly what she's doing. She wants to push me away from you." At that moment, Michael heard a soft sound coming from his mother's room. It was a suppressed cry, the kind of cry from someone who doesn't want to bother anyone. The same kind of crying he had heard as a child on nights when Mrs. Evelyn thought he was sleeping and would pour out her heart alone about the difficulties of raising a child without help. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. The next morning, Michael woke up with a heaviness in his chest that he couldn't explain. Jennifer had gone home the night before, but not before making it clear that she expected a formal apology from Mrs. Evelyn. The apartment was too quiet, and when he got up to go to the kitchen, he found a note on the table. "Son, I went to Dorothy's place so I wouldn't interrupt your breakfast with Jennifer. I'll be back tonight. Love, Mom." Mrs. Evelyn's shaky handwriting made him swallow hard. Dorothy was the neighbor downstairs, a widow who had become his mother's best friend in recent years. Michael picked up the note and noticed there was something else underneath it, a small blue velvet box. Inside the box was the engagement ring he had mentioned wanting to buy for Jennifer. A delicate solitaire that cost exactly $2,000, the amount Michael had been saving for months. Next to the box, another note. For when you propose to her. I sold Grandma's gold bracelets last week. She would be happy to know she helped you find happiness. Michael felt the world spin around him. Grandma's bracelets were the only jewelry Mrs. Evelyn owned, an inheritance from a time when the family was better off. She had kept those pieces her whole life, saying they were for a special occasion. The phone rang, interrupting his thoughts. It was Jennifer. Good morning, honey. I hope you talked to your mum about last night. Her voice sounded impatient from the first words. Jennifer, I found something here. What? She seemed distracted, probably getting ready for work. Michael looked at the ring again, feeling the weight of his mother's generosity. How could he tell Jennifer that Mrs. Evelyn had sold her jewelry to fund their future? Nothing important. Can we talk tonight? Sure, but I want you to make it clear to your mum that I won't tolerate that kind of behavior anymore. And, Michael, her voice grew more serious, I have some news for you. A job opportunity came up in Chicago. Much better salary. Chicago? Michael sat down heavily in the kitchen chair. Yes, honey. We can start a new life there, away from family complications. Her tone made it clear what kind of complications she meant. After hanging up, Michael was left alone with the ring and the weight of a decision he didn't even know he would have to make. When Mrs. Evelyn returned that night, he found her in the kitchen making dinner as if nothing had happened. She was wearing the same light blue cardigan from the night before, but there was something different in her movements, a fragility that wasn't there before. Mom, about the bracelets. How you found it? She smiled, but Michael noticed the smile didn't reach her eyes. I hope she likes the ring. I picked the design you showed me in the magazine. You didn't have to do that. Mrs. Evelyn stopped stirring the chili and turned to him. Her hands, Michael noticed for the first time, trembled slightly. Son, my greatest joy is seeing you happy. If Jennifer makes you happy, then I want to help however I can. What if I said I'm not sure she makes me happy? The question came out before Michael could stop it. Mrs. Evelyn studied him for a long moment, her hands still trembling as she held the wooden spoon. Only you can answer that, she said finally. But can I tell you something I've learned in these 68 years of life? Michael waved, sitting down at the kitchen table where he had eaten thousands of meals throughout his life. True love doesn't require you to choose between the people you love. It finds a way to include everyone who is important to you. That night, Michael barely slept. His mother's words echoed in his mind, mixed with Jennifer's demands and the image of those trembling hands. When he finally fell asleep, he dreamed of the time when he was a child and Mrs. Evelyn would come home exhausted from the hospital, but always found the energy to help him with his homework. The next day, while working as an accountant in an office downtown, Michael couldn't concentrate. His boss, Mr. Richard, a man nearly 70 years old who had known Mrs. Evelyn since she worked at the local hospital, noticed his distraction. Michael, are you all right? You seem to be somewhere else today. Yeah. Personal problems, Mr. Richard. The man approached and closed the office door. You can talk. I knew you when you were a boy who came to pick up your mother from the hospital after school. If something is bothering you, maybe I can help. Michael hesitated, but something in Mr. Richard's fatherly expression made him open up. He told him about the dinner, about Jennifer's demands, about the ring bought with the money from the sold jewelry. And now she wants me to move to Chicago, Michael finished, running his hands through his hair. Mr. Richard remained silent for a few moments, looking out the window that overlooked Marina District Beach. Michael, I'm going to tell you something you might not know. Your mother worked 12 hours a day for 15 years to give you a good education. When you were in college, she took extra shifts to pay your tuition. I know that, Mr. Richard. No, you don't know everything. The man looked at him seriously. She turned down 3 marriage proposals during those years. Good men who truly loved her. Do you know why she refused? Michael shook his head, feeling a tightness in his chest. Because they demanded that she choose between them and you. And for your mother, that wasn't even a choice, She always said, my son is part of me. Whoever loves me has to understand that. Mr. Richards' words echoed in Michael's mind for the rest of the day. When he got home, he found Jennifer already there, talking with Mrs. Evelyn in the living room. At first glance, the scene seemed harmonious, but Michael sensed the tension in the air. "Hi, honey." Jennifer stood up and kissed him, but her smile seemed forced. "I was talking with your mother about Chicago." Michael looked at Mrs. Evelyn, who kept her hands carefully resting on her cane, avoiding his gaze. "Oh, really? And what did you decide?" he asked, sensing there was more to the conversation than was being said. "Your mother agrees it would be good for our careers," Jennifer replied quickly. "Isn't that right, Mrs. Evelyn?" "If it's what makes you happy." Mrs. Evelyn's voice came out almost inaudible. Michael realized his mother hadn't actually agreed, she had just not disagreed. It was the kind of quiet diplomacy she always used to avoid conflict. "Mom, what do you really think about this?" Before Mrs. Evelyn could answer, Jennifer intervened. "Michael, you don't need to submit everything to your mother's approval. We're adults. We can make our own decisions." "But it's a decision that affects her too," Michael countered, surprised by his own firmness. "How does it affect her?" Jennifer crossed her arms, a gesture Michael was beginning to recognize as a sign of an approaching storm. "Well, she lives with me. If I move to Chicago—" "Exactly," Jennifer interrupted him. "It's time for you to move out anyway. You're 34 years old, Michael." The silence that followed was cutting. Michael saw his mother shrink slightly in her armchair, as if she had received a blow. Mrs. Evelyn had never pressured Michael to move out. In fact, she had always made a point of saying the house was his too. "Jennifer, are you suggesting I abandon my mother?" "Not abandon, of course not." She modulated her voice, realizing she had gone too far. "But she can manage on her own, or she could go to a retirement home. There are many good places nowadays." Mrs. Evelyn stood up abruptly, leaning on her cane. "Excuse me, I'll go prepare dinner," she said, heading to the kitchen with hurried steps. Michael followed her with his gaze, noticing how she moved more slowly than before, how the cane had become a real necessity, not just an occasional support. "Jennifer, my mother is not going to any retirement home." "Why not?" Jennifer moved closer to him, lowering her voice. "Michael, you need to think about our future. We can't stay stuck in the past forever." "Stuck?" Michael felt indignation growing inside him. "My mother is not a prison, Jennifer." "Isn't she?" She stared directly at him. "Then why do you never make a decision without consulting her first? Why does our life always have to revolve around her feelings?" Michael opened his mouth to disagree, but stopped. Could it be true? Did he really consult his mother about everything? Or was Jennifer twisting his natural concern for Mrs. Evelyn's well-being? From the kitchen came the sound of pots being moved more forcefully than necessary. Michael knew his mother well enough to know she was upset, but trying not to show it. "I'll talk to her," said Michael, heading toward the kitchen. "No, let me go." Jennifer held him by the arm. "I need to clear things up with her myself." Before Michael could protest, Jennifer was already walking toward the kitchen. He followed her, arriving just in time to hear the conversation. "Mrs. Evelyn, I think we need to talk," Jennifer began, her tone carefully controlled. "Of course, dear. Would you like me to make some tea?" "No, thank you. I want to talk about Chicago." Michael stood frozen at the kitchen entrance, watching the two most important women in his life. Mrs. Evelyn kept stirring the gravy for the mac and cheese, but Michael noticed her hands were trembling more than usual. "What about Chicago?" asked Mrs. Evelyn, without turning around. "You know it's a great opportunity for Michael. And for me, too." "Yes, I imagine it is. So you agree it would be good for us to move?" Mrs. Evelyn finally turned around, leaning on the kitchen counter. Michael saw tears welling in her eyes. "If that's what makes you happy." "But you don't seem very convinced," Jennifer pressed. "Jennifer." Michael started to intervene, but she silenced him with a gesture. "No, Michael. I want to hear what your mother really thinks." Mrs. Evelyn looked at her son, then at Jennifer, and Michael saw decades of wisdom and weariness in that gaze. "Can I be honest?" asked Mrs. Evelyn. Of course, replied Jennifer, but Michael sensed she wasn't expecting honesty. I'm afraid, Mrs. Evelyn said simply. Afraid of what? Afraid of being alone. Afraid my son will forget me when he's far away. Afraid of dying with no one around. The words came out in a broken whisper, and Michael felt as if someone had punched him in the stomach. His mother, always so strong, always so brave, was admitting her deepest fears. Jennifer, however, didn't seem moved by the confession. Mrs. Evelyn, that's too emotional. You need to think rationally. Michael has a right to his own life. I know he does. Mrs. Evelyn wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. I've always known. That's why I never asked him to stay. That's why I never complained when he started dating. That's why I sold my mother's bracelets to buy the engagement ring. Michael saw Jennifer pale. She didn't know about the sold jewelry. What bracelets? Asked Jennifer, looking confused from Mrs. Evelyn to Michael. The only jewelry she owned, replied Michael, his voice heavy with emotion. She sold them to buy your engagement ring. Jennifer fell silent for a long moment, processing the information. Michael expected to see gratitude, perhaps even remorse for the events of the previous night. Instead, he saw irritation. Mrs. Evelyn, that was unnecessary. Nobody asked you to do that. Jennifer! Michael couldn't contain his indignation. What? She turned to him. I'm being honest. She did this to make us feel guilty, didn't she? The sound that came from Mrs. Evelyn's throat was like a groan of physical pain. She turned back to the stove, her back trembling slightly. I think you'd better leave now, Jennifer, said Michael, his voice low but firm. What do you mean? Are you throwing me out because of her? I'm asking you to leave because I need some time to think. Jennifer stared at him for a long moment, her eyes blazing with anger. Fine, Michael, but when you decide to grow up and stop being a mama's boy, you know where to find me. She grabbed her purse and left, slamming the door hard. The silence that followed was broken only by the sound of gravy bubbling on the stove. Michael approached his mother, placing his hand gently on her shoulder. Mom, I'm sorry, son, she said without turning around. I didn't mean to cause trouble between you. You didn't cause any trouble. Yes, I did. Jennifer is right. I shouldn't have bought the ring. It was an intrusion. Michael felt his heart breaking. His mother was blaming herself for an act of pure love. Mom, look at me. He waited until she turned around. You did nothing wrong. Nothing. Then why was she so angry? It was a question Michael didn't know how to answer. Why had Jennifer gotten angry at a gesture of generosity? Why couldn't she see the love behind Mrs. Evelyn's sacrifice? Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. In the days that followed, Michael found himself watching his mother with new eyes. He noticed how she always waited for him to get home from work before having dinner, even when he was late. He noticed how she saved the best portions of food for him, always eating what was left. He saw how she insisted on washing and ironing his clothes, even with her hands trembling more and more. It was a rainy Thursday when Michael decided to leave work early. He wanted to talk to Mrs. Evelyn about everything that was happening, but mostly he wanted to understand when and why her hands had started trembling so much. When he got home, he found her sitting in the living room armchair, looking out the window. She didn't notice he had arrived, and Michael watched her for a few moments. There was something deeply melancholic about the way she watched the rain fall, her hands resting on her cane, her shoulders slightly hunched. Mom? She turned, trying to disguise that she had been caught in a moment of vulnerability. Son, I'm glad you're home early. I'll start dinner. No need to rush. Michael sat on the sofa, facing her. We can talk a bit first. Talk about what? She asked, but Michael sensed she already knew. About your hands. About when they started trembling. Mrs. Evelyn looked at her own hands as if seeing them for the first time. Oh, that. The doctor said it's normal at my age. Stress, he said. Stress about what? Well, son, everyone has stress. It's nothing serious. Michael knew his mother was downplaying the situation, as she always did when it came to her own problems. Mum, when was the last time you went out with your friends? The question caught her by surprise. Went out how? For lunch, to chat, to have fun. When was it? Mrs. Evelyn grew thoughtful for a long moment. It's been a while. Dorothy invites me, but I always have something to do here at home. What kind of thing? Well, you know, cooking, cleaning, your clothes. Michael felt a weight growing in his chest. When had been the last time he'd seen his mother truly relaxed, doing something for her own pleasure? And Dr. Johnson, what exactly did he say about your hands? Mrs. Evelyn hesitated, and Michael realized there was more to the conversation with the doctor than she was telling. Son, it's nothing serious. Mom, please, I want to know the truth. She sighed deeply, looking again at her hands. He said it could be emotional stress. He asked if I was going through any difficult situation at home. And what did you say? That everything was fine. But everything isn't fine, is it? The silence that followed was an answer in itself. Michael got up and sat on the arm of his mother's chair, something he hadn't done since he was a child. Mom, can I ask you a difficult question? Of course. Are you afraid of me? The question came out more directly than Michael had planned, but he needed to know. Afraid? Why would I be afraid of you? She seemed genuinely confused. Afraid of losing me? Afraid that I'll choose Jennifer instead of you? Mrs. Evelyn grew very quiet for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was full of contained emotion. Son, it's not a fear of losing you. It's a fear of becoming a burden. A burden? You're 34 years old. You should be building your own family, making your own plans. Instead, you're here taking care of an old woman. You're not old, and certainly not a burden. Yes, I am, she said with a firmness that surprised Michael. You think I don't see how Jennifer looks at me? How she gets impatient when she has to include me in your plans? Michael felt a pang of guilt. It was true that Jennifer always got annoyed when Mrs. Evelyn joined their outings, but he had interpreted that as normal girlfriend jealousy. And that bothers you? Of course it bothers me, but not for me, for you. How so? Because I see you in the middle, trying to balance everything. And I know that's not fair to you. Michael got up from the chair and went to the window, watching the rain that continued to fall. His mother's words echoed in his mind, mixed with Jennifer's demands and Mr. Richards' advice. Mom, can I ask you something about the men you dated when I was younger? What do you want to know? Why didn't it really work out with any of them? Michael turned to face her. Mrs. Evelyn seemed surprised by the question. Who told you about that? Mr. Richard mentioned that you turned down some proposals. Oh, Richard does talk too much, she gave a sad smile. They were good men, son, men who truly loved me. Then why didn't it work? Because they wanted me to choose, the answer came straight without hesitation. They said a serious relationship required total dedication, that I couldn't divide my attention between them and you. And you chose me. I chose you. Always. Michael felt his eyes fill with tears. His mother had given up her own romantic happiness to dedicate herself to him, and now he was considering doing the same to her. Do you regret it? Never, the answer came without hesitation. You are the best thing that ever happened to my life. Every sacrifice was worth it. But now it's different. I'm an adult, I have my own life. Exactly, she interrupted him. That's why I don't want you to make the same choice I did. I don't want you to give up Jennifer for my sake. Michael Wilson approached her again, kneeling beside the armchair. And what if I said that maybe Jennifer isn't the right person for me? Then I'd say that decision has to come from your heart, not from the pressure she puts on you or the protection you feel for me. It was exactly what Michael needed to hear. His mother, even amid everything she was going through, could still be the voice of wisdom in his life. The phone rang, interrupting the moment. It was Jennifer. Michael, we need to talk. Can I come over? Jennifer, I don't think it's a good time. It's about Chicago. I got an answer from the company today. They want our response by Friday. Michael looked at Mrs. Evelyn, who pretended not to be listening to the conversation. All right, you can come. After hanging up, Michael turned to his mother. Mom, whatever happens tonight, I want you to know that I love you. I love you too, son. more than you can imagine. Jennifer arrived an hour later, carrying folders and papers. She greeted Mrs. Evelyn politely, but Michael noticed the tension in her voice. "Michael, I brought all the documents about the position in Chicago." She spread the papers on the living room table. "The salary is 40% higher than your current one, and I could get a very good position at my company's branch." Michael analyzed the documents while Mrs. Evelyn discreetly withdrew to the kitchen. "It's a tempting proposal, Jennifer. It's not just tempting, it's our chance to grow professionally, and personally too." "Personally how?" Jennifer approached him, lowering her voice. "Michael, be honest with me. When was the last time we had a weekend just for ourselves? When was the last time we could make plans without considering your mother?" Michael thought about the question. It was true that they always included Mrs. Evelyn in their plans. But was that bad? "Jennifer, my mother never prevented our plans. She didn't prevent them directly, but she's always there, isn't she? We always need to think about her. Is it wrong to think about the people we love?" "It's not wrong, but there has to be a limit." Jennifer stood up and started walking around the room. "Michael, you're 34 years old, and you've never lived alone. You've never had to completely fend for yourself. And that's a problem? It's a problem for our relationship. How are we going to build a family if you still depend on your mother for everything?" The word depend bothered Michael. Did he depend on Mrs. Evelyn, or did he just enjoy living with her? "I don't depend on my mother, Jennifer. I choose to take care of her." "It's the same thing." "It's not." Michael stood up, feeling his irritation grow. "Dependence is when you can't live without someone. Care is when you choose to be present in the life of someone you love." Very poetic, Michael, but in practice the result is the same. "You'll never be completely mine while she's between us." The phrase echoed through the room like an ultimatum. Michael looked toward the kitchen, where he could hear the faint sound of Mrs. Evelyn washing dishes. "Jennifer, are you asking me to choose between you and my mother?" "I'm asking you to choose our future." She approached him again. "Chicago is our chance to start from scratch, away from complications." "My mother isn't a complication, isn't she?" Jennifer crossed her arms. "Then explain to me why you can never make an important decision without talking to her first. Why our sex life has diminished since she started becoming more dependent. Why you cancelled our trip to Santa Barbara last month because she was feeling lonely." Every word from Jennifer was like a well-aimed arrow. It was true that Michael had cancelled the trip. It was true that he always consulted his mother about important decisions. But was that wrong? "Jennifer, my mother is getting older. She needs me now more than ever." "And when will this end, Michael? When will you be able to live your own life?" The question hung in the air like a ticking time bomb. Michael knew Jennifer was implying he would be stuck taking care of Mrs. Evelyn until the end of her life. "I can't believe you're suggesting that." "I'm being realistic." Jennifer picked up one of the papers on the table. "Michael, look at these numbers. In 5 years working in Chicago, you could buy an apartment for her in San Francisco. You could hire caregivers. You could give her a more comfortable life than she has now." Michael looked at the numbers, and they really were impressive. But there was something in Jennifer's proposal that deeply bothered him. And meanwhile, she would be alone. She would be well taken care of. "It's not the same thing." Jennifer sighed as if dealing with a stubborn child. "Michael, you need to understand that love sometimes means making tough choices, and sometimes it means letting the people we love be independent. Or sometimes it means being there when they need us most. Your mother raised you to fly, not to be tied to her forever." "Who said I feel tied down?" The question came out with more force than Michael had intended. Jennifer stared at him, as if seeing something new in him. "You don't feel tied down?" Michael thought about the question honestly. Were there times he felt overwhelmed? Yes. Were there times he wished he had more freedom? Also. But did he feel tied down? The answer was no. "No, Jennifer, I don't feel tied down. I feel grateful." Grateful? Grateful to have a mother who loves me unconditionally. Grateful to be able to give back a little of what she did for me. Grateful to still have her with me. Jennifer was silent for a long moment, studying his face. And what if I say, I can't share you with her anymore? The question Michael had feared was finally on the table. He looked at Jennifer, at the papers scattered on the table, at the kitchen where his mother continued making soft noises. Then I guess we have a serious problem to solve. Or a simple decision to make, Jennifer replied. Chicago or staying here, our future or the past, me or her. It's not that simple. Yes, it is, Michael. It's exactly that simple. At that moment, Mrs. Evelyn appeared in the doorway, holding a tray with coffee. Sorry to interrupt, but I thought you might like some coffee. Michael watched his mother approach with careful steps, the tray trembling slightly in her hands. He watched Jennifer accept the cup with a forced smile, without even thanking her. He watched the contrast between the genuine generosity of one and the poorly disguised impatience of the other. Thank you, Mom, said Michael, accepting his cup and noticing how Mrs. Evelyn's hands really trembled more than before. You're welcome, son. I'll let you two talk in peace. When Mrs. Evelyn walked away, Jennifer immediately resumed the conversation. Michael, I need an answer by Friday. The company won't wait any longer than that. What if I say I don't want to go? Then I'll go alone. The statement was made so casually that it took Michael a few seconds to fully process it. What do you mean you'll go alone? Michael, I'm 29 years old. I can't just stand still waiting for you to decide to grow up. Are you breaking up with me? I'm saying I need to move on with my life, with or without you. Michael felt like he was seeing Jennifer for the first time. There was a coldness in her eyes that he had never noticed before, a determination that bordered on selfishness. And if I go with you, what happens to my mother? She'll manage, like all mothers do when their children grow up and leave home. Jennifer, she's 68 years old. Her hands shake from stress. She has no one else but me. She has no one because you never let her make her own friends, because it's always been you and her against the world. The accusation hit Michael like a punch. Could it be true? Had he prevented his mother from having her own social life? That's not true, isn't it? When was the last time she went out without you? When was the last time she did anything that wasn't related to taking care of you or the house? Michael opened his mouth to respond, but realized he couldn't think of a single recent occasion. Jennifer, even if that were true, abandoning her now isn't the solution. It's not abandoning, it's letting her be independent. Independent or alone? The difference is in both of your heads. Michael stood up and went to the window, trying to organize his thoughts. Outside, the rain had stopped, but the sky was still gray. Jennifer, can I ask you a question? Of course. Do you love my mother? The question seemed to catch Jennifer by surprise. What do you mean? It's a simple question. Do you feel any affection for her? Any concern for her well-being? Jennifer took a long time to respond, and Michael realized the hesitation was already an answer. Michael, I don't hate your mother, but I also can't pretend I feel for her what you feel. I'm not asking you to feel what I feel. I'm asking if you feel anything at all. She's important to you, so I try to respect her. Trying to respect isn't the same as loving. Michael, where are you going with this? I want to understand how you expect me to abandon someone I love to be with someone who barely tolerates that person I love. Jennifer stayed silent for a long moment, and Michael saw something change in her expression. Michael, are you saying I don't tolerate your mother? I'm saying you've never shown genuine affection for her. I'm saying you see her as an obstacle, not as part of the family. Because she isn't part of our family, Jennifer exploded, finally showing her true irritation. Our family is you and me, Michael, not me, you and your mother. And if I say I disagree? Then I'd say you have serious issues separating from your mother. And I'd say you have serious issues accepting that the people we love are part of who we are. The silence that followed was tense and loaded with meaning. Michael realized they had reached a point of no return in the conversation. Jennifer, I think we have very different views on what it means to love someone. Maybe we do, she began, gathering the papers on the table. And maybe it's time we admitted that. Maybe it is. Jennifer stopped gathering the papers and stared at him. "Michael, last chance. Chicago or not?" Michael looked toward the kitchen entrance, where he could hear the soft sound of Mrs. Evelyn arranging the pots. He thought about the 3 years of relationship with Jennifer, the promises they had made to each other, the plans they had built together. Then he thought about a lifetime of his mother's sacrifices, the unconditional love she had always shown, the trembling hands that sold jewelry to buy an engagement ring. "No," he said finally, "I'm not going to Chicago." Jennifer nodded, as if she had already expected the answer. "Then I guess we have nothing left to talk about." She finished gathering the papers and headed to the door. Before leaving, she turned one last time. "Michael, when you get tired of being an eternal son and want to be a real man, you know where to find me." The door closed behind her with a final sound. Michael stood in the empty living room, hearing only the ticking of the wall clock and the soft noises coming from the kitchen. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. After Jennifer left, Michael sat on the couch for a long time, staring at the empty space where she had been just minutes before. There was a strange feeling of relief mixed with sadness, like when you finally take off a shoe that's been too tight all day. Mrs. Evelyn appeared in the doorway, hesitant. "Son, is everything all right?" Michael looked at her, really looked. He saw a 68-year-old woman who had dedicated her entire life to him, who still worried about his well-being above her own, who trembled with stress because she was afraid of being a burden to the son she loved more than life itself. "Yes, Mom. I think everything's all right now." "Did Jennifer leave?" "She did, and I don't think she's coming back." Mrs. Evelyn approached carefully, leaning on her cane. "Was it because of me?" Michael stood up and went to her, gently placing his hands on her shoulders. "No, Mom. It was because I finally understood the difference between someone who loves you despite the people you love and someone who loves you including the people you love. I don't understand. Jennifer wanted me to choose between her and you, but someone who truly loved me would never ask me to make that choice." Mrs. Evelyn was silent for a moment, processing her son's words. "Are you sure you made the right choice?" "I am. For the first time in a long time, I'm absolutely sure." "But what about your plans? The future you had planned together?" Michael smiled, feeling a weight lift from his shoulders. "Mom, I discovered something. There's no point in planning a future with someone who doesn't accept your past. And you're not my past. You're my present and my future too." Mrs. Evelyn began to cry, but this time they were tears of relief. "Son, I was so afraid of losing you." "You'll never lose me, Mom, never." They hugged right there in the living room, and Michael felt as if he had found something he didn't even know he had lost. When they pulled apart, he noticed that Mrs. Evelyn's hands were trembling less. "Mom, tomorrow we're going to the doctor to take a look at these hands." "Son, you don't need to worry." "Yes, I do. And then we're going to talk about you going out with your friends again, about you having a social life of your own." "A social life? You're 68, not 98. You still have a lot to live and enjoy." Mrs. Evelyn smiled, and Michael noticed he hadn't seen such a genuine smile on her face in a long time. "And you? Won't you miss Jennifer?" Michael thought about the question honestly. "I'll miss the idea I had of her, but the person she really was. No, Mum. I won't miss someone who made me feel guilty for loving you." That night, as they ate dinner together at the kitchen table, Michael realized something he had forgotten in the last few months. Mrs. Evelyn was delightful company. She had interesting opinions about politics, knew fascinating stories about the neighborhood they had always lived in, and had a sharp sense of humor that Michael had inherited from her. "Mum, can I tell you something?" "Of course, son." "In the last few months, I was so worried about balancing you and Jennifer that I forgot to simply enjoy your company." "What do you mean?" "I mean I was treating our time together as a problem to be solved, instead of a pleasure to be enjoyed." Mrs. Evelyn laughed, a sound Michael hadn't heard in weeks. "Son, you've always been a bit dramatic." "Me? Dramatic?" Michael pretended to be indignant. "Who cried watching that soap opera last week?" It was a very sad scene, she defended herself, laughing even more. It was the kind of conversation they had always had, but that had gotten lost in the conflicts with Jennifer. Michael realized how much he had missed this natural intimacy between them. "Mom, tomorrow is Saturday. How about we do something together? Something you want to do." "Something I want to do?" She seemed surprised by the question. "Yeah. When was the last time someone asked what you wanted to do on the weekend?" Mrs. Evelyn became thoughtful. "It's been a while indeed." "So, what would you like to do?" "Well, Dorothy has invited me several times to go to the antique fair at the Embarcadero. I've always wanted to go, but I thought you'd find it silly." Michael felt a pang of guilt. When had he become someone who made his mother feel ashamed of her own interests? "Mom, an antique fair sounds great. Let's go together." "Really? Really? And if Dorothy wants to join us, even better." Mrs. Evelyn smiled with an enthusiasm Michael hadn't seen in months. "She'll be so happy. She always says I want to stay locked up at home. Dorothy is right, you should go out more, have more fun." "But what if you need me for something?" "Mom, I'm 34 years old. I think I can manage alone for a few hours." She laughed again, and Michael realized how rare that sound had become lately. "You're right. I think I got used to thinking I was indispensable." "You are indispensable to me, but that doesn't mean you have to give up your own life." It was a conversation they should have had a long time ago. Michael realized that in trying to protect his mother, he had ended up creating a prison for both of them. "Son, can I ask you something?" "Of course. You won't regret it." "About Jennifer, I mean." Michael thought about the question while watching his mother across the table. He thought about the 3 years with Jennifer, the good times they had, but also the constant ultimatums, the impatience with Mrs. Evelyn, the inability to accept that Michael's love included other people besides her. "No, Mum. I think what I'll regret is taking so long to realize that a healthy relationship doesn't require you to abandon the people you love." "Do you think you'll find someone who understands that?" "I think so. And if I don't, I'd rather be alone than with someone who makes me feel guilty for loving you." Mrs. Evelyn reached her hand across the table and touched his. Michael noticed that the trembling had significantly decreased. "Thank you, son." "Why?" "For choosing me, even if it cost you your relationship." "Mum, I didn't choose you instead of her. I chose true love over conditional love. It just so happens that true love was here with you." That night, Michael slept better than he had in months. There was no longer the constant tension of trying to please people with opposite expectations. There was no longer the guilt of feeling like he was disappointing someone no matter what he did. On Saturday morning, he woke up to the smell of cinnamon rolls coming from the kitchen. Mrs. Evelyn was preparing breakfast, wearing a floral dress that Michael hadn't seen in years. "Good morning, son," she said cheerfully. "Dorothy called early. She's super excited about the fair." "And you?" "I am too," she laughed. "Do you know how long it's been since I got ready to go out?" Michael looked at his mother and realized how different she looked. There was a lightness in her movements, a sparkle in her eyes that had gradually disappeared over the past few months. "You look beautiful, Mum." "Thank you, son. I feel beautiful too." While they had breakfast, Mrs. Evelyn told him about the plans Dorothy had made for the outing. They wanted to have lunch at a restaurant that served home-style food, then go to the fair, and if there was time, maybe have coffee in the square. "Sounds like a perfect plan," said Michael. "And you? What will you do alone here?" "I think I'll clean out the closet, maybe watch a movie. Or maybe call Mr. Richard, see if he wants to play dominoes." "Mr. Richard? I didn't know you played dominoes." "We used to play when I was younger. He always invites me, but I always have some excuse." "What kind of excuse?" Michael thought about the question and realized that in fact his excuses always involved Jennifer, or commitments she considered more important. "Silly excuses. I think I'll call him today." "That's great, Mr. Richard is good company." At 10 in the morning, Dorothy arrived to pick up Mrs. Evelyn. She was an energetic 72-year-old lady, widowed for 5 years, who had become her mother's best friend. "Michael," she greeted him enthusiastically, "I'm so glad you let Evelyn go out with me today." "Let?" Michael smiled. "Aunt Dorothy, my mother doesn't need my permission to go out." "Oh, I know. But you know how it is. Sometimes we get too used to the routine at home." Michael looked at his mother, who was checking if she had everything in her purse. "That's true, but I think that's going to change from now on." "I hope so," said Dorothy. "Evelyn is wonderful company, but she spends too much time cooped up in this apartment." When they left, Michael found himself alone at home for the first time in months. Lately, when he was alone, he always felt pressure to use the time for things related to his relationship with Jennifer: calls, plans, conversations about their future. Now, for the first time in a long time, he could simply exist without rush, without pressure, without the need to please anyone but himself. He called Mr. Richard, who was genuinely happy about the invitation to play dominoes. "Michael, what a nice surprise. Of course I want to play dominoes. Can you come here, or would you prefer I come over?" "Can you come here? That way, when my mother gets back, you can say hello." "Of course. How is she?" Dorothy told me she'd been feeling a bit down. "She's better, much better, actually." "That's good. Evelyn is a strong woman, but everyone has their tough moments." Mr. Richard arrived an hour later, carrying the domino set and a warm smile. "How are you, young man?" he asked, giving Michael a hug. "I'm fine, Mr. Richard. Actually, thank you for our talk last week." "Oh, that talk about your mother. Did it help at all?" "It helped a lot. Jennifer and I broke up." Mr. Richard stopped taking out the domino pieces and looked at Michael carefully. "And how are you feeling about that?" "Relieved, to be honest." Relieved is an interesting reaction to the end of a 3-year relationship. "Yeah," Michael began organizing his pieces. "But I think I was trying to force something that wasn't meant to be." "How so?" "Jennifer wanted me to choose between her and my mother. And when someone truly loves you, they don't force you to make that kind of choice." Mr. Richard nodded, a gesture that indicated years of life experience. "Michael, I'm going to tell you something. When I married my wife, 45 years ago, she knew my mother lived with us. And you know what she said?" "What?" "She said, 'Richard, if you're capable of taking care of your mother with such tenderness, imagine how you'll take care of me.'" Mr. Richard smiled at the memory. "She saw my love for my mother as a quality, not a threat." "And did it work out?" 45 years of marriage, Michael. And my wife and my mother became best friends. When my mother got sick, it was my wife who insisted she come live with us." Michael fell silent, processing the story. It was exactly the kind of relationship he had dreamed of, without knowing it was possible. "Mr. Richard, do you think there's someone like that for me?" "I'm sure there is. And do you know why?" "Why?" "Because you've already proven you're the kind of man who deserves that kind of love. A man who honors his mother, who doesn't abandon those he loves when things get tough. That kind of character attracts the right kind of person." They played dominoes for 2 hours, talking about everything and nothing. Michael realized how much he had missed this kind of male companionship, talking with someone who knew his story and offered perspective without judgment. "Michael," said Mr. Richard during a break in the game, "can I give you some unsolicited advice?" "Of course. Don't rush to find someone else. Take this time to rediscover who you are when you're not trying to please anyone." "What do you mean?" "When we're in a relationship that requires a lot of commitment, we sometimes lose pieces of ourselves. Now you have the chance to recover those pieces." It was wise advice. Michael realized it had been a long time since he had done things he really enjoyed, just because Jennifer wasn't interested in them. "You're right. I think I kind of forgot what I like to do." "It's normal, it happens to everyone. The important thing is to recognize it and do something about it." When Mrs. Evelyn and Dorothy returned from their outing, they found Michael and Mr. Richard laughing at a story he was telling about his youth. "It's so good to see you two having fun," said Mrs. Evelyn, clearly happy. "And you? How was the fair?" asked Michael. "Wonderful," replied Dorothy enthusiastically. "Your mother bought a beautiful antique frame to put the photo of you two in." Michael looked at Mrs. Evelyn, who smiled timidly. "It was on sale," she justified. No need to justify, Mom. I'm glad you bought something for yourself. And we had lunch at a delicious place, continued Dorothy. Evelyn already made plans for us to go back next week. Really? Michael smiled at his mother. If you don't mind, she began. Mom, please. Do I mind? I'm happy that you're going out and having fun. Mr. Richard watched the interaction with an approving smile. Evelyn, you look great. It did you good. Thank you, Richard. I really felt very good today. As Dorothy shared details about the outing, Michael watched his mother. There was an animation in her gestures that he hadn't seen in a long time. Her hands, he noticed, were barely trembling. Mom, your hands... Oh, yes. She looked at her own hands with surprise. They hardly trembled today. I think I was so distracted that I forgot to be nervous. Or maybe you're less stressed, suggested Mr. Richard. That could be, agreed Mrs. Evelyn. I feel more light today. After Dorothy left and Mr. Richard also said goodbye, Michael and Mrs. Evelyn sat in the living room to talk about the day. Mom, do you want to tell me about the fair? Oh, son, it was so good. Her eyes sparkled. We found so many interesting things. And Dorothy knows everyone there. She introduced me to several people. What kind of people? Other ladies who go to the fair, some friendly vendors, a lady named Margaret who is 75 and travels all over the United States looking for antiques. Wow! And did you talk a lot? We did. And you know what else? She invited me to go with her on a trip to Napa Valley next month. There's a very famous antique fair there. Michael felt a twinge of automatic worry, but he controlled it. His mother was making friends, building a social life of her own. It was exactly what she needed. Sounds interesting. Do you want to go? I really do, she hesitated. But it's a 2-day trip. And? You'd be alone. Michael laughed. Mum, I'm 34 years old. I think I can survive 2 days alone. Are you sure? I'm sure. In fact, I'm happy that you're making new plans. Mrs. Evelyn smiled, and Michael saw in that smile the independent and courageous woman she had always been, before dedicating herself entirely to taking care of him. You know, son, today I remembered how much I like meeting new people, hearing different stories. You've always been like that. I was the one who sometimes forgot. It's not your fault. I think I forgot a little too. That evening, while they were preparing dinner together, Michael realized something important. For the first time in months, his house felt like a home again, not a battlefield where he tried to balance opposing needs. Mum, can I tell you something? Of course. Today was one of the best Saturdays I've had in a long time. For me too, son. And do you know why? Why? Because we both could be ourselves. No pressure, no having to pretend to be different than we are. Mrs. Evelyn stopped cutting the tomatoes and looked at him. You felt pressured to be different. Sometimes, yes. Jennifer always thought I was too attached to the family, as if that were a flaw. And did you ever believe that? Michael thought about the question honestly. I did question it, yes. I did think that maybe I was immature for liking to live with you, for worrying about your well-being. And now? Now I understand that there's nothing immature about loving your family. The immature thing would be to abandon who you love because of outside pressure. Mrs. Evelyn came closer and touched her son's face tenderly. You are a good man, Michael, and any woman who can't see that doesn't deserve you. Thank you, Mom. No, thank you for choosing me today, for making me feel important. You have always been important to me. You always will be. The following week, Michael established a new routine. He started going to the gym again, something he had given up because Jennifer thought he spent too much time away from home. He resumed the guitar lessons he had stopped. He started reading books that really interested him, instead of just the ones Jennifer approved of. Mrs. Evelyn, in turn, started participating in a knitting group at the church, scheduled doctor's appointments she had postponed, and even signed up for a regional cooking class. Mom, a cooking class? Michael asked when she told him the news. Yes, I've always wanted to learn dishes from other regions of the United States. Dorothy convinced me. That's great. Am I going to be a guinea pig for the experiments? Only if you want to, she laughed. But I'll warn you that I'm going to start with jambalaya. Jambalaya? You don't even like Cajun food. How will I know if I like it if I never try to make it? Michael laughed, impressed with his mother's willingness to try new things. It was as if, free from the pressure of having to justify every move for Jennifer, Mrs. Evelyn was rediscovering her own personality. 2 weeks after the breakup with Jennifer, Michael received a call from her. "Michael, it's me, Jennifer." "Hi, Jennifer. How are you?" "I'm fine. And you?" "Fine too. Listen, I'm calling because, well, I got the position in Chicago." "Congratulations. When are you moving?" "Next week. But Michael, before I go, I wanted to talk to you." Michael hesitated. He had gotten over the breakup faster than he expected, and he wasn't sure if he wanted to revisit that territory. "Talk about what, Jennifer?" "About us. About the possibility of you changing your mind." "Jennifer, let me speak, please. I've been thinking a lot, and maybe I was too radical. Maybe we can find a middle ground." "What kind of middle ground?" "Well, you could come with me to Chicago, and we could find a good retirement home for your mother. Or she could stay with some relative." Michael interrupted. "Jennifer, my mother is not going to any retirement home, and she doesn't have other relatives. Then maybe she could go live with Dorothy." "Jennifer, are you hearing what you're saying? You're suggesting I get rid of my mother to be with you." "It's not getting rid of her. It's finding alternatives." "There are no alternatives for love, Jennifer. Either you accept the people I love or you don't. There is no middle ground." There was a long silence on the other end of the line. "Michael, are you sure you want to throw away 3 years of a relationship over this?" "I'm not throwing anything away. I'm choosing people who love me unconditionally instead of people who put conditions on their love." "Your mother isn't going to live forever, Michael." The phrase was said so casually, so cruelly, that Michael was left speechless for a moment. "Jennifer, I can't believe you said that." "I'm being realistic. In a few years..." "Enough, Jennifer. This conversation is over." "Michael, wait." "No, Jennifer. Now I understand perfectly why we broke up, and I understand it was the best decision I ever made." Michael hung up the phone, feeling even more certain of his choice. Mrs. Evelyn appeared in the living room, coming from the kitchen where she was trying out a new recipe. "Who was that, son?" "Jennifer." "Oh, and what did she want?" "To try and convince me to change my mind about Chicago." "And did you?" Michael looked at his mother, who watched him with a serene expression. No pressure, no expectation, just genuine interest in his well-being. "No, Mum. In fact, I became even more convinced I made the right choice." "Why?" "Because she suggested sending you to a retirement home or to Dorothy's house." Mrs. Evelyn blinked a few times, processing the information. "I see. And she said that you..." Michael hesitated, not wanting to repeat Jennifer's cruel words. "Said what, son?" "That you aren't going to live forever." Mrs. Evelyn was quiet for a moment, then gave a sad smile. "Well, technically she's right. Nobody lives forever." "Mom, no, son, let me speak. She's right that one day I won't be here anymore. But do you know the difference between how she sees that and how you see it?" "What?" "She sees my mortality as a reason to abandon me now. You see it as a reason to value me while I'm here." Michael felt his eyes fill with tears. His mother, at 68 years old, could still express deep truths with a simplicity that went straight to the heart. "That's exactly it, Mom." "Then you made the right choice, son, because to love means to be present, especially when things get difficult." That night, Michael reflected on the call from Jennifer and realized something important. He didn't feel for a single moment the temptation to change his mind. There was no doubt, no what if. There was only the certainty that some choices are so fundamental they define who you really are. 1 month after the breakup, Michael was at the gym when he met Rachel, a 32-year-old physical therapist who had recently moved to San Francisco. They started talking about workouts, then about the city, and Michael realized it had been a long time since he felt so at ease talking to a woman. "Are you actually from here, from San Francisco?" she asked him after a workout. "I am." born and raised in the Marina district. How cool. Do you still live there? I do. With my mother, actually. Michael said this without hesitation, without embarrassment. It was an unconscious test. Rachel's reaction would say a lot about the kind of person she was. That's wonderful. She smiled genuinely. My mom lives in Colorado and I miss her a lot. It must be great to have her nearby. It really is, Michael smiled, feeling something relax inside him. Especially after I realized it's a privilege, not a burden. How so? Oh, it's a long story. I have time, said Rachel, and Michael realized she actually seemed interested, not just being polite. They sat down in the gym's cafe, and Michael found himself telling her about Jennifer, about the choice he had to make, about how he had rediscovered the joy of living with his mother without guilt. Wow, said Rachel when he finished. What an intense story. Yeah, but it had a happy ending. How so? I discovered that when you make the right choices, even if they're hard, you find peace with yourself. Rachel nodded, thoughtful. You know, Michael, my grandmother always used to say something. If someone asked you to choose between them and your family, they've already chosen for you. How so? Because someone who truly loves you would never put you in that position. Michael smiled. That was exactly the conclusion he had reached, but hearing it from someone new, from an outside perspective, confirmed he wasn't being irrational or too sentimental. Your grandmother was wise. She really was. And you know what else she used to say? What? That the way a man treats his mother is a preview of how he'll treat his wife. Michael laughed. In that case, I hope it's a good preview. From what you've told me, it's an excellent preview. They plan to have coffee the following week, and Michael found himself looking forward to the meeting in a way he hadn't felt in a long time. There was something about Rachel that put him at ease, that made him feel like he could be exactly who he was, without pretenses or masks. When he got home, he found Mrs. Evelyn in the kitchen, trying out a clam chowder recipe she had learned in her cooking class. How was the gym, son? Good. I met an interesting person. An interesting person? She looked at him with a mischievous smile. What kind of interesting person? A physical therapist. Rachel, she's different. Different how? Different from Jennifer. When I told her I live with you, she thought it was nice, not problematic. Mrs. Evelyn stopped stirring the clam chowder and looked at Michael carefully. And how did you feel telling her? Natural. I didn't feel like I had to justify myself or apologize. That's good, son. Mom, can I ask you something? Of course. If I start dating someone new, would you be bothered? Mrs. Evelyn laughed. Son, why would I be bothered? I don't know. After everything that happened with Jennifer. Michael, the problem with Jennifer wasn't that she was in your life. The problem was that she wanted me out of your life. I see. If you find someone who understands that love isn't a zero-sum game, that loving you includes accepting the people you love, I'll be happy. Zero-sum game? It's when someone can only win if someone else loses. Jennifer thought that for you to love her, you had to stop loving me, but love doesn't work that way. How does it work? True love grows when it's shared. A person who loves you will want to meet your family, will want to understand why you are who you are. Michael smiled, once again impressed by his mother's wisdom. I hope Rachel is like that. If she is, I'll welcome her with open arms. If she's not, you already know what to do. I sure do. That night, Michael lay in bed thinking about how his life had changed in just 1 month. He had lost a girlfriend but gained back his peace of mind. He had given up a professional opportunity but rediscovered the value of family. He had become romantically alone but found himself as a person, and for the first time in a long time, he was excited to see what the future held, without fear of having to choose between the people he loved. The following week, Michael and Rachel met for coffee. They talked for 3 hours, and Michael realized it had been a long time since he had connected so naturally with someone. Michael, can I ask you a maybe somewhat personal question? Said Rachel during the conversation. Sure. How did you know you had made the right choice, with Jennifer, I mean? Michael thought about the question. You know when you're wearing tight shoes all day, and when you get home and take them off, you feel immediate relief? I do. That was exactly it. The moment I made the decision, I felt a relief I didn't even know I needed. And you don't miss it? Having someone? I miss the idea of having someone. But I don't miss having to constantly justify myself, having to choose between people I love. Rachel nodded, thoughtful. My mother always says it's better to be alone than in bad company. Your mother and I think alike. Speaking of which, Rachel hesitated. When do you think you could introduce me to her? The question took Michael by surprise. Not because it was inappropriate, but because it was exactly the kind of question Jennifer never asked. Jennifer always treated meetings with Mrs. Evelyn as social obligations to be fulfilled, not as opportunities to get to know someone important to Michael. Whenever you'd like, he replied. She loves meeting new people. How about next weekend? I can bring a dessert. She'd be very happy. And you? Would you be happy too? Michael looked at Rachel, at her genuine smile, at the sincere interest in her eyes. I'd be very happy. The following Saturday, Rachel arrived at the apartment in the Marina District carrying a lemon pie she had made herself. Michael noticed her nervousness, but it was a good kind of nervousness, the kind that comes from genuinely wanting to make a good impression. Mrs. Evelyn, Michael called out, I'd like to introduce someone to you. Mrs. Evelyn appeared in the living room wearing a light blue dress and a warm smile. You must be Rachel, she said, extending her hands to greet her. Michael has told me so much about you. I hope it was all good things, laughed Rachel, offering the pie. I brought a dessert. How kind, you didn't have to go to the trouble. It was no trouble. I enjoy cooking. Michael watched the interaction between the two women and felt something he hadn't expected. Hope. There was a naturalness in the way they talked, an ease that completely contrasted with the tense interactions between Mrs. Evelyn and Jennifer. Rachel, would you like some coffee? Offered Mrs. Evelyn. I'd love some. Michael told me you're a physical therapist. That must be a rewarding job. It really is. Helping people regain their movement, getting back to doing the things they love, there's nothing better. Michael noticed that Mrs. Evelyn was genuinely interested in Rachel's profession, asking thoughtful questions about her work and the challenges in the field. And do you like San Francisco? Asked Mrs. Evelyn. I'm really enjoying it. People are warmer than I expected. In Denver, where I used to live, people are more reserved. Oh, you're from Colorado. I met quite a few people from Colorado at the hospital where I worked, always hardworking and honest people. My mother always says that Coloradans are born honest and die honest, laughed Rachel. Your mother sounds like a wise woman. She really is. You actually remind me of her. How so? The welcoming way about you, the genuine interest in people. My mother is like that too. Michael saw Mrs. Evelyn's eyes light up at the compliment. How kind of you to say that. It's not kindness, it's the truth. Michael told me how you raised him on your own, how dedicated you were to him. My mother did the same for me. Your father also? Mrs. Evelyn asked delicately. He left us too when I was little. But you know what my mother always said? What? That a father who abandons his children does them a favor because he shows what kind of person he is before he can cause even more damage. Mrs. Evelyn laughed, clearly approving of the philosophy. Your mother is right. It's better to find out people's character early on. Michael watched the conversation flow naturally between them and realized something important. Rachel wasn't trying to impress Mrs. Evelyn or compete with her. She was genuinely interested in getting to know her as a person. Mrs. Evelyn, said Rachel during lunch, Michael told me you're taking a regional cooking class. How interesting. Oh, yes, Mrs. Evelyn perked up. I've always wanted to learn dishes from other regions. Last week I made jambalaya. Really? How did it turn out? Delicious. Much better than I expected. Could you teach me? I've always wanted to learn, but my mother only knows how to cook Colorado food. Michael saw the joy on his mother's face when she was invited to teach something. Of course, it would be my pleasure, whenever you want. How about next week? I can come help with dinner. Great idea. Mrs. Evelyn looked at Michael. What do you think, son? I think it's perfect, replied Michael. feeling his heart warm. After Rachel left, Michael and Mrs. Evelyn were tidying up the dishes together. "So, Mom, what did you think of her?" "I liked her very much," replied Mrs. Evelyn without hesitation. "She's genuine." "Genuine how?" "Truly interested in people. She wasn't just being polite with me, she really wanted to get to know me." "I noticed that too." "And Michael..." Mrs. Evelyn stopped drying the plates and looked at him. "What? You were relaxed with her here. You weren't tense trying to manage the situation." Michael thought about his mother's observation and realized she was right. With Jennifer, he was always on high alert when she and Mrs. Evelyn were in the same room, ready to intervene at any sign of tension. "It's true. With her, I feel natural." "That's a good sign, son. You wouldn't mind if she came here more often?" Mrs. Evelyn laughed. "Mind? Son, it's been a long time since I had such a pleasant visitor. She can come whenever she wants, even if me and her started dating seriously. Especially if you started dating seriously. It's good to see you truly happy." "What do you mean, truly happy?" "Happy without guilt, without having to choose, without having to justify yourself. Happy the way you always should be." That night, Michael called Rachel to thank her for the afternoon. "Rachel, thank you for today. My mother was delighted with you. And I with her. Your mother is a special person, Michael. She really is. And you know what else? You can see where you got your caring nature from. You're very much alike." "Alike how?" "In the way you make others feel welcome. It's a gift." Michael felt an indescribable emotion hearing that. It was the first time someone saw his relationship with Mrs. Evelyn as something positive that was reflected in his personality. "Rachel, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Does it bother you that I live with her?" "Why would it bother me?" "I don't know. Some people think it's a lack of independence." "Michael, independence isn't about living alone. It's about choosing where and with whom you want to be. And you chose to be with someone you love and who loves you. That's maturity, not a lack of independence." Michael was silent for a moment, processing Rachel's words. "Thank you for understanding that. Thank you for being who you are. Men who love and care for their family are rare these days." "You really think so?" "I'm sure, and your mother raised you very well." In the months that followed, Michael and Rachel developed a relationship that was everything he never knew he wanted. She integrated naturally into his and Mrs. Evelyn's life, joining Sunday dinners, helping with groceries when Mrs. Evelyn wasn't feeling well, even learning some recipes from the cooking class. Mrs. Evelyn, in turn, continued expanding her social life. She took the trip to Napa Valley with Margaret, joined a book club at the neighborhood library, and even started discreetly dating Mr. Henry, a 72-year-old widower she met at the antique fair. "Mom," said Michael when she told him about Mr. Henry, "I'm happy you found someone." "It's nothing serious, son." "Mom, if it is serious, I'm happy too. You deserve to have company." "And if we decide to move in together?" she asked timidly. Michael smiled, remembering how the situation had reversed. Now she was the one worried about leaving him alone. "Mom, if it comes to that, we can talk about arrangements. But I want you to know that your happiness is more important to me than any inconvenience. Even if it means you'll be alone." "Mom, look at me." Michael waited until he had her full attention. "First, I won't be alone. I have Rachel, I have friends, I have my own life. Second, even if I were alone, I'd rather you be happy." "How can you be sure?" "Because that's exactly what you've always done for me. You put my happiness before yours. Now it's my turn to return the favor." Mrs. Evelyn began to cry, but they were tears of joy. "How did I raise such a good son?" "I think it was by being an example of kindness every day of my life." 6 months after meeting Rachel, Michael decided it was time for a more serious step. But before anything else, he wanted to talk with Mrs. Evelyn. "Mum, can I talk to you about something important?" "Of course, son. Did something happen?" "No, nothing bad. It's about Rachel." "Oh, yes?" Mrs. Evelyn smiled. "Are you two doing well?" "We're doing great. Actually, I'm thinking of asking her to marry me." Mrs. Evelyn was silent for a moment, then hugged him tightly. "Son, what joy! Are you sure? You won't feel left out?" "Left out? Michael, are you crazy? I'm gaining a daughter." "Really?" "Of course. Rachel is already part of our family. Making it official will only make everything more beautiful." "And what if after we marry she wants us to have our own house?" "Then you'll have your own house," Mrs. Evelyn replied simply. "You wouldn't be sad? Son, do you think I raised you to always be my little boy? I raised you to be a good man, to start your own family. If the time has come for that, I'm proud. But what about you? Where will you live? Maybe with Henry, maybe alone, maybe near you. We'll see what life brings. Mom, I want you to know something." "What?" "No matter where each of us lives, you will always be the most important person in my life. Rachel knows this and accepts it. And that's why she's the right person for you, son. Because she understands that love doesn't diminish when it's shared." Michael used the ring that Mrs. Evelyn had bought with the money from her grandmother's bracelets. When he told Rachel the story behind the ring, she cried with emotion. "Michael, what an honor to wear a ring bought with so much love." "So you accept?" "I do, but with one condition." "What?" "I want your mother to be my matron of honor." Michael smiled, knowing he had found the right person to share his life with. "She'll be thrilled. And you? Will you be thrilled?" "I'm already thrilled. Thrilled to have found someone who understands that loving you includes loving your family." On the wedding day, which took place in the garden of the church where Mrs. Evelyn attended the knitting group, Michael looked at his mother, radiant in her light blue dress, next to Rachel in her simple but elegant gown. During the vows, Michael said, "Rachel, you taught me that true love doesn't demand impossible sacrifices. You showed me that it's possible to love someone without giving up who you are. I promise to love and honor you, including all the people who are part of who you are, just as you do with the people who are part of who I am." Rachel, in her vows, said, "Michael, you showed me that a man who loves and honors his mother is a man who knows what true commitment means. I promise to be a daughter to Mrs. Evelyn, as she was a mother to you, and I promise to build with you a family where love grows when it's shared." Mrs. Evelyn cried throughout the entire ceremony, but they were tears of pure joy. 3 years later, Michael and Rachel lived in an apartment 2 blocks from Mrs. Evelyn's house, who had moved to a smaller apartment after marrying Mr. Henry. They had lunch together every Sunday, sometimes at the young couple's place, sometimes at the older couple's. Rachel was 6 months pregnant, and Mrs. Evelyn was over the moon with the prospect of becoming a grandmother. "Michael," said Mrs. Evelyn during a Sunday lunch, "can I tell you something?" "Of course, Mom. I'm proud of you." "Why?" "Because you knew how to choose true love instead of easy love." "Easy love?" "Jennifer was easy love. She didn't require you to grow to mature your feelings. She only demanded that you give up everything." "And Rachel?" "Rachel is true love. She accepted you completely, with your history, your family, your values, and you did the same for her." Michael looked at Rachel, who was talking with Mr. Henry about plants for the garden, one hand resting lovingly on the belly where their first child was growing. "Mom, can I tell you something?" "Of course. Thank you for teaching me what unconditional love is. If it weren't for that example, I would never have recognized true love when it appeared. And thank you for showing me that I raised a man who knows how to value what truly matters." That afternoon, as he watched his small family gathered together, Mrs. Evelyn and Mr. Henry sharing stories from the past, Rachel laughing at his anecdotes, everyone planning for the baby's arrival, Michael realized he had made the most important decision of his life that night when Jennifer forced him to choose. He hadn't chosen his mother over Jennifer. He had chosen the love that includes instead of the love that excludes. He had chosen to build a family instead of destroying one. He had chosen to be true to his values instead of giving them up for convenience. And the result was right there in front of him. A family growing in love, not shrinking through division. 6 months later, when his son was born, Michael held him in his arms for the first time and whispered, "Welcome to the family, little one. A family where you will always be loved exactly as you are, where you'll never have to choose between the people you love." Mrs. Evelyn, holding her grandson for the second time, looked at Michael and smiled. "Now you understand completely, don't you, son?" "Understand what, Mum?" "How a mother's love works. It's a love that never ends, that never demands, that always protects." Michael looked at his son, then at his wife, then at his mother, and finally understood that he had done more than make the right choice between two women. He had chosen the kind of man he wanted to be, the kind of father he wanted to be, the kind of family he wanted to build. And for the first time in his life, he felt completely at peace with all his choices. End of story. And now, dear listeners, I'd like to know, what did you think of Michael's decision? Do you think he made the right choice by staying with his mother? How would you react in a similar situation? Leave your honest opinions in the comments. We love reading each and every one. And if this story touched you in any way, don't forget to like, and most importantly, subscribe to the channel. It helps us so much to keep bringing emotional stories like this one.